Hello everyone, this is Bhavik Chokshi here and I hope you guys are doing great. Today we would be doing a quick revision for CSR and also discussing all the exam questions that have come in CSR. Now this is a relatively easy topic and one of the only non-Ind-AS topics in your CA final FR. And it does come for around 4 to 6 marks. So if institute needs a variety and a break from Ind-AS, this is the place where institute goes, and it has gone 6 times. So it's highly likely that you get a question on this, and questions largely are following a similar pattern. So I want you to be accustomed to all the questions that have come till now, and also a quick overview of the concepts and the important points. So let us get started with this. So CSR around 4 to 6 marks weightage. Before we proceed, a very quick overview. CSR is covered under section 135 of the Companies Act. Under this section, companies which are above a specific threshold have to comply with CSR provisions. So what is the threshold? Well, if the turnover in the immediately preceding year, just the immediately preceding year, is greater than, let's say, 1000 crores, or the net worth is greater than, let us say, 500 crores, or the most important, net profit is greater than 5 crores in the immediately preceding year, then a company will by default be under CSR provisions. Do I look at the net worth on a consolidated or a standalone basis? Well, on a standalone basis. Well, if CSR is applicable to the holding company, does it automatically become applicable to the subsidiary? No. You have to test for the CSR limit separately for each company. If I'm a Section 8 company, not for profit, or if I'm a foreign company who has operations in India, will I also be covered under CSR? The answer is yes, if you cross the specific limits. Do I need to look at the average of last 3 years' profits? Well, not for the purpose of coverage of CSR, maybe for something else you might look. Here you will just focus on the immediately preceding year. Sir, if I'm a company which is recently incorporated, maybe I've not covered 3 years, that's fine. Even if you are there for 1 more year in the past, you will look at the performance of the last year, and based on that, if it crosses one of the 3 limits, you will be subjected to CSR. This is the entry into CSR. Okay, let us say CSR provisions are applicable. Then what are the restrictions or what are the compliances you have to do? Well, 3 of them. First, you need to set up a CSR committee. In most of the cases, you'll have to set up a CSR committee. Now, this committee comprises of at least 3 directors, out of which 1 has to be independent. And if your company does not have to keep independent directors, then you will have to have at least 2 directors. There is a recent amendment which has come in 2021 only, that CSR committee is required now only for those companies which have a CSR spending of greater than 50 lakhs. So if your CSR spending is less than 50 lakhs, CSR committee is not required, though every other thing like CSR spending or CSR report will still continue to apply. We will come to this later in the discussion as well. Secondly, the CSR report of the work that you have done should be showcased in the director's report as a part of your annual report as well. And lastly, the most important clause is, if you are covered by CSR, then you need to spend at least 2% of the average net profits of the last 3 years for eligible activities. I'll again repeat, 2% of the average net profits. Here it is not just the net profit of the last year, it is the average net profits of the last 3 years. But if you are not working, or if you are a newly incorporated company which does not have a 3-year track record, then 2% of the average net profits of how many ever years are there. Now this has to be spent into eligible CSR activities. Now what are the eligible CSR activities? Well, they have been specified in Schedule 7 to the Companies Act. A lot of the good causes that you hear, environmental conservation, protection of architectural heritage, eradication of poverty, malnutrition, hunger, medical assistance, all of these, encouragement of sports, rural development, women empowerment, all of these are covered under Schedule 7. You don't need to remember all of them. But 2 important things that you should be aware of are, if I don't want to do all of this, I don't probably have the time, expertise to do all of this, but I'm still covered under CSR, well, the government says you can make contributions to funds like the Swachh Bharat Kosh or PM CARES funds or the Prime Minister's Relief Fund. All of these you can make contributions. So CSR activities can be activities that you yourself are conducting, or you're contributing to a eligible fund that will be also counted as eligible CSR, but you have to contribute. Just earmarking or keeping aside money or just announcing that whatever products are sold, 1 rupee out of every product sold will be contributed, that is not sufficient. You have to actually do that contribution. Money has to be actually spent. Merely earmarking, keeping aside, making announcements does not work. Creating a liability, spending money is something that is required for CSR activities. Okay, so this is about CSR. A few important things we have discussed as well. Secondly, what are the few key points that you need to remember? Remember, extension of your own business cannot be treated as CSR. So for example, if you're Parle G and let us say there is a flood somewhere and you're supplying Parle G biscuits at a concessional rate, it is very, it appears to be CSR very clearly, but it's very difficult to differentiate between CSR and actual sales promotion. And hence, if you are selling your own products or extension of your own commercial activities, then that is not CSR. Well, if you're Parle G and if you want to do CSR, you don't give Parle G biscuits, you give something else. Probably give blankets, probably give something which you are not really manufacturing. Secondly, if you're doing something for your employees, maybe giving education or medical support for your employees, or probably taking them out for an offsite and feeding them in a way, these are employee welfare activities. You cannot say that you're doing eradication of hunger, poverty. No, this is employee welfare, and hence work done for the purpose of employees will not be counted as CSR. Again, political parties are supposed to be really pioneers in a way in the good causes, but well, the government very subtly says that any contribution to a political party should not be counted as CSR activities. Again, if you're running a joint CSR joint project with various companies, then this joint project, you will get CSR benefit if there is a clear demarcation of cost and a split which is agreed by the parties, in which case it will be counted as eligible CSR. Again, we should focus more on India, and hence activities which are done outside India will not be counted as CSR. It's a good thing that you're supporting outside India, but first charity begins at home, and as a result, if you want to get CSR benefit, then you'll first have to have money spending in India. So these are a few crucial points. There are a lot of Schedule 7 activities. You can go through them at your leisure time, though they are not as significant, at least from an accounts paper perspective. And lastly, there is accounting for CSR. This is based on a guidance note which is issued by our beloved ICAI. So when we are looking at CSR, there are 4 aspects that are touched upon over here. First, what if there is a shortfall in CSR spending? So for example, let us say your average net profit for the last 3 years comes to, let us say, 50 crores. So 2% of that will come to approximately, let us say, 1 crore. So ideally you have to spend 1 crore rupees, but you have spent only 80 lakhs. So you have spent 80 lakhs and hence there's a shortfall of 20 lakhs. What should you do? Well, the 80 lakhs that you have spent, your entry will be CSR expenditure account debit to bank if you're spend it for a expenditure like you're paying for teachers, or you might have even created a CSR asset, like you might have constructed a school building. So CSR asset account debit to bank, that's fine. You can have a revenue or a capital expenditure, no problem in that. However, what about the shortfall of 20 lakhs? Well, the law says you have to create a provision. Sir, why do we have to create a provision? Because as we will study further, you are under an obligation to contribute the remaining 20. Sir, what if we don't? Well, you will be subjected to heavy penalties as you will study further, and as a result, you will have to spend that. Either you will have to transfer it into an ongoing projects account, or you will have to transfer it to an eligible fund, or you'll be subjected to heavy penalties, and hence you will have to create a provision for the shortfall at the end of the year. Second, it's a fairly recent amendment as well, again a 2021 amendment, where if you have spent money for CSR which is in excess, so for example here you have spent 1 crore 20 lakhs, so you had to spend 1 crore, you spent 1 crore 20 lakhs. The law now is amended and it permits carry forward. As we will see a few suggested answers as well of 2020, 21, etc. They have mentioned carry forward is not permitted. However, there is an amendment. You can look at the study material as well. You can carry forward very well, but for a period of 3 years. So CSR spent in excess can be carried forward for a maximum period of 3 years. This is again at the choice if the entity wants to carry forward, but unless given otherwise, an entity would carry forward. Carry forward is permitted to the extent of 3 years. So your entry can be CSR expense account debit, let's say 1 crore, prepaid CSR account debit 0.2 lakhs or 0.2 crores, and 20 lakhs to bank, let's say 1.2 crores. Third, if there's any surplus from CSR activity. So for example, you are doing CSR activity, but typically if everything is given free, people don't really value it. So you charge a nominal amount for food. You can say, okay, just 5 rupees for the food. So you're receiving an income. You're doing a CSR activity, but you're receiving an income. However, that income also as per law has to be used for CSR purposes only, and hence when you receive the income, the entry is bank account debit to, let us say, deferred CSR, where you will say that, okay, this 5 rupees is, I am under an obligation to spend that 5. Then once you spend it, your entry is again deferred CSR account debit to bank 5. And as a result, you again don't get a deduction for 5 rupees. That 5 rupees will be kept inside a liability, and once you again spend it, it will go as a debit to the liability. Lastly, you can build CSR assets. You can build a school, but you don't transfer it to the villagers. You kind of believe that probably they might misuse it. So you build a school, create a trust, and then the objective of the trust is use it for the benefit of the rural children. In which case, this school which is created will be your CSR asset, and every year it will be depreciated. So can you again claim depreciation as CSR expense? The answer is no. The capital expenditure was permitted as a CSR expense. Depreciation again cannot be permitted as a CSR expense. Okay, now based on this, there are a few legal points that we want to touch upon. First is about the excess CSR spending. As we have said, that you are permitted to carry forward the CSR for a period of 3 years, which is excess spend, amount unspent on a project. So it might sometimes happen that projects are such that you have committed to constructing a school, but in the first few years the expenditure is lower because you're just doing the blueprints, etc. But you're saying that, okay, a lot of my money is going to be drained out into the school only, and hence I don't want to just while away the money for other causes. And hence, if in the current year you have spent, let us say, 80 lakhs in constructing the school, but in the next year you believe that you'll have to spend a lot more, then the law says you can transfer this shortfall of 20 lakhs to a separate account called as an unspent CSR account. It's like an escrow account, like you do even in capital gains. I mean, if you have sold a house and you want to buy another house, you have a 2 or 3 years time frame, you transfer that money into a separate account. Here also you will transfer that money into a separate account, whereby you will have to utilize that money for a CSR activity within the next 3 years. You will have to do that. Or if you don't have an ongoing project, then within a period of 6 months, you will have to transfer the additional amount to an eligible fund like a Swachh Bharat Kosh or a PM Cares fund, etc. You will have to transfer it within a period of 6 months. अपन बोलते धीट है, अपन बोले नहीं करेंगे. अच्छा नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होगा? There will be heavy penalties on default if you do not do either of these. That is, let us say you had 1 crore of CSR liability, 80 lakhs you are spent, 20 lakhs are remaining. You have to ideally spend this 20 lakhs by transferring to a separate unspent CSR account for an ongoing project or to an eligible CSR fund. You don't do either of these, then the penalties will be 2 times the amount that you had to transfer. This is just a penalty. Or 1 crore, whichever is less. This is on the company, and then every officer on default will also be subject to 1/10 of this amount. So there are heavy penalties for non-compliance, and hence provision is required in case money is not spent. Okay, CSR committee threshold. As we have said, a recent amendment has come where we have been told that CSR committee is required, formulation is required only if you have to spend more than 50 lakhs in a year. Otherwise, the responsibilities can be discharged directly by the board. Now, this is one particular area where if you see the past suggested answers or even the institute study material, this is a 2021/22 clause, and as a result in the past answers, you would see that even if your spending is less than 50 lakhs, if your net worth or turnover or net profit is greater than the specified limit, they would have written that CSR committee should be constituted. In fact, in the study material also, you might be seeing this as we speak. However, if you see even the May 22 main exams, they have clearly mentioned in the May 22 exam question this had come, where they had clearly mentioned that, okay, because the spending is less than 50 lakhs, CSR committee is not required. So you can very well use this clause in the exam, but if you're still scared, you can just write that CSR is applicable. However, as per a recent amendment, CSR committee may not be required if since the spending is less than 50 lakhs, those CSR provisions are applicable, so that you are safe. So most of your past exam questions will mention CSR committee is to be constituted, because this amendment was not there at that point. The May 22 question, which is the most recent question that has come, which has mentioned as well that CSR committee is not required since the spending is less than 50 lakhs. But if you're kind of scared, and rightly so, the past history is not very favorable in favor of students, but if you're kind of scared, you can mention that CSR provisions are applicable, though the constitution of CSR committee can be exempted in line with an amendment. Okay. Acha, next is applicability and non-applicability. This is just a clarification. So it is, I mean, CSR is, it's not a comparison, but it's like the CA course. जैसे बोलता ना, अंदर आना easy है, बाहर जाना थोड़ा मुश्किल है. So when you look at CSR, if you want to enter into CSR, you will look at the three limits: the net worth, the net profit, as well as the turnover limit, only for the immediately preceding year. If it gets triggered, you enter. However, if you, once you have entered, if you now want to exit, you say, I'm now a smaller company, I don't need to continue with CSR, then you should not have met any of the criteria in the last 3 years, not just the immediately preceding year, in the last 3 years. So ideally, they should make the provisions consistent, but till the time there's an amendment, this provision continues. So if you want to move out of CSR after entering into CSR, you will have to look at the limits of the last 3 years. Okay. So based on this, we have, we've kind of discussed the entries as well. So these are entries, and then you go to the questions. Okay, so first is the question of May 2018. This is the oldest attempt. There are 6 questions that have come, everything between 4 to 6 marks. So let us quickly discuss. You will see a kind of a pattern in these questions, and you will know that, okay, these are the types of questions which typically can come. So hang on, let's quickly try to finish them. First, what are the provisions of section 135 of the Companies Act regarding the constitution of CSR committee? Also explain the role of CSR committee and the board. So this is a theory based provision. You will just mention that the limits, you will mention, we are not discussing that again, the turnover, net worth, as well as the net profit limit, and you will discuss the responsibilities of the CSR committee and the board, where you have to focus on the local area, do schedule 7 activities, etc. XYZ is a company with a net worth of 250 crores. So this is below the limit. Net worth limit is 500 crores. It manufactures parts for automobiles. The sales of the companies are affected due to low demand of the product. The previous year's financials are as follows. So this is 31st March 18, which is the current year. Then 31st March 17, 16 and 15. Okay. You have the net profit and turnover. Net worth is given as 250, which is lower. Turnover limit is 1000. Current year we should not see, you should be looking at the immediately preceding year. This is 900, so this is below limit, but net profit limit is 5 crores. This is above the limit, and hence CSR provisions will apply in the year 17-18. Examine whether the company has an obligation to form a CSR committee since the applicability criteria is not satisfied in the current year. Current year it satisfies or not, we don't care. It is satisfied in the immediately preceding year, and hence CSR committee should be required if the CSR spending is greater than 50 lakhs. So if I now go to see, my CSR spending over here would be 8, 3.5 and 3.25. If I take the average, 8 plus 3.5 plus 3.25 divided by 3, it comes to around 4.91 into 2%. It comes to approximately 9.8 lakhs. Average net profit into 2% is 9.8 lakhs, and hence in view of the recent amendment, since the CSR spending is less than 50 lakhs, CSR committee constitution is not required, though you will continue to spend this for CSR, and the board will discharge the responsibilities of the committee. This is question number 1. Okay. Question number 2. Baby Limited manufactures consumable goods for infants like bath soap, cream, powder, oil, etc. like Johnson & Johnson. As a part of the CSR policy, it has decided that for every pack of these goods sold, 75 paise will go towards the Swachh Bharat Foundation, which will qualify as CSR spend as per Schedule 7. Consequently, at the year end, company sold 40,000 such packs, and a total of 30,000 rupees was recognized as CSR expenditure. However, this amount was not paid to the foundation at the end of the year. Will the amount of rupees 30,000 qualify as CSR? The answer is a clear no. Well, you have announced that you will spend 75 paise for every pack sold, and hence 40,000 into 0.75, that is 30,000 rupees based on that announcement should be spent. But have you spent? The answer is no. deductions for CSR is available based on the actual spending. It is not available based on a mere announcement, and hence till the time you actually spend it, it will not be allowed as a CSR eligible expense. Okay, so this is about question number 2. Question number 3. Royal Limited is, this is a November 20 question. Royal Limited is a company which has a net worth of 200 crores. Well, that is below the limit. Engaged in the manufacturing of rubber. The sales of the company are badly affected due to pandemic. Okay, that's kind of similar. The relevant financial information are as follows. This is 31st March 20, the current year, estimated. Whatever it is, we don't care about the current year. We have to look at the immediately preceding year. Not even the last 3 years. The immediately preceding year, sales is 950 crores, which is below the limit, but net profit is 8.5 crores, which is above the limit. So, will the company be subjected to CSR? The answer is yes in the year 1920. During the pandemic period till 31st March 20, various commercial activities were undertaken with considerable concession or discounts. Commercial activities, that is your own activities. Along the related affected areas, the management intends to highlight the expenditure incurred on such activities as expenditure incurred on activities to discharge CSR. Incorrect. You cannot do that. Your own commercial activities cannot be counted as CSR. You are requested to advise the CFO of Royal on the below points with reasons for your advice. Whether the company has an obligation to form a CSR committee since the applicability are not satisfied in the current year. Again, we don't care whether it is satisfied in the current year or not. Are they satisfied in the immediately preceding year? Well, yes, and hence CSR provisions are applicable. Now, is CSR committee constitution required? Well, it depends. You take 8.5 plus 4 plus 3. You will not see this in the suggested answer, because this was based on older provisions divided by 3. I'll show this in the May 2022 solution so that you are clear. 8.5, 4 and 3 divided by 3. So this comes to around 5.17. 5.17 crores into 2% comes to approximately 10 lakhs, 0.1033. So since the CSR spending is less than 50 lakhs, CSR committee may not be constituted. Again, I mean, based on past history, we are as students scared that what if institute does not consider that, what is suggested answer, print something else, because study material has also still not covered that. They've mentioned clearly the 50 lakh limit, but the solutions have not been revised. So if you want to play it safe, you write the solution as the suggested answers as the study material. You say that, okay, based on earlier provisions, CSR committee constitution was required. However, based on a recent amendment, so you are telling the examiner both the aspects. That is what I would advise. Second, the accounting of expenditure during the pandemic period is to be treated as expenditure on CSR in the financial statements in accordance with the view of the company. The answer is no, because this is commercial activities of the enterprise which are done at discounts. This is not CSR. You will have to spend something else of 10,33,000. Will CSR applicable? Well, CSR is applicable, though the committee may not be constituted because the spending is less than 50 lakhs. Okay, that is question number 3. Going on to question number 4. Sunshine is a company which seems to be covered under the ambit of CSR, which seems to be covered. So the question is not asking you whether it is covered or not, it is telling you that it seems to be covered. As a part of its CSR contribution, an amount of 40,000 per month was spent by way of adoption of 2 families in the drought hit area. Okay, so this seems to be eligible CSR activity. 40,000 per month into 12 months in a year. So this comes to, I think, 4,80,000 that you have spent per annum. Excellent. The average net profits of the immediately preceding year was 1 crore 80. Acha. So if I take 1 crore 80 as a base into 2%, 1 crore 80 into 2% comes to 3,60,036 crores. That is 3,60,000. So ideally you should have spent 3,60,000 if you were covered by CSR. And the question tells you that you seem to be covered under CSR. Please note that the company commenced its commercial activities only on the first day of the immediately preceding year. So it's just 1 year. So your average net profit will be the same as the net profit of the immediately preceding year only, because you have just a 1 year history. The account of the company says that the CSR provisions are not applicable to the company since it is only 1 year old. Arre, aisa kidhar likha hai? Even if it is 1 year old, in the last year, if your net worth was greater than 500 crores, we don't have information of the net worth, or your turnover was greater than 1,000 crores, then CSR is very much applicable. And in case if it is applicable. He wants to carry forward the excess amount spent on CSR activities to the future years. What is the excess amount spent? Well, 4 lakh, first of all, CSR is applicable. So, we are not commenting on that. We are just focusing on this line that CSR seems to be covered. So, if CSR is applicable, then 4 lakh 80 is what you have spent, and ideally 3 lakh 60 is what you should have spent, and hence the additional 1 lakh 20,000 can be carried forward. If you open the suggested answers of January 21, they have said carry forward is not permitted, because at that point in the year 2020, carry forward was not permitted. They have put an asterisk and they have mentioned below as well that at that point carry forward was not permitted, but now carry forward is permitted. So you have to remember that if this question comes in your exam, you will carry forward very clearly. Okay, so carry forward is permitted. Perfect. So this is question number 4. Next you go to question number 5, which is a July 21 paper. NICE Limited is a company incorporated on 1st April 19. Okay, so this is the incorporation date. 1920 is the first year. The company has a net worth of 350 crores, so that is below limit. The business of the company was affected due to low demand of its products. You see, these questions have similarity. I mean, all of these questions have the same pattern. You will read and you will say, "Haan, yaar, ye to humne dekha hua hai." I mean, it's same pattern. The following financial data is available on 31st March 21. So we are talking about the year 2021, and the immediately preceding year seems to be the year 1920, which is the first year of operation. Okay. 31st March 20 audited, 31st March 20 provisional. We don't have to see the provisional data, we have to see the audited data. In the audited data, the turnover is 550 crores, which is below limit, but net profit, as you again see, 5 crores के ऊपर है, and hence it crosses company के ऊपर CSR लगेगा. During the financial year 2021, the company has spent 55,000 per month for developing vocational skills of the local youth. So 55,000 per month into 12 if we do during the year, this seems to be 6 lakh 60 which is spent, which seems to be an eligible CSR activity. The company has also provided its products at a considerable discount for the benefit of the underprivileged, the cost of which is 3 lakh 50. On the face of it, it also appears to be eligible CSR, but the problem is this line. Company has provided its products, and hence this is your own commercial activity, and because it is your own extension of your own commercial activities at consensual rate, this will not be counted as eligible CSR. The company wants to carry forward its entire expenditure over to the next year. Acha, entire bole to 6 lakh 60 plus 3 lakh 50, so it wants to carry forward this entire 10 lakh 10,000 to the next year, as it is of the opinion that it does not have to spend anything on CSR during the current year. अपन बोलेंगे शांति रखो, सबर करो. During the current year, ऐसे कैसे? Comment on the company's applicability under the CSR as per section 135 of Companies Act 2013 for the financial year 2021. अच्छा, is CSR applicable? First, CSR is applicable because the company has a net profit of greater than 5 crores in the immediately preceding year, that is in the year 1920. अभी current year में कुछ भी उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Does it have any obligation to transfer any amount to any fund? Well, it depends. Ideally, the CSR spending that you have to do, CSR spending that is required seems to be 7.1 crores into 2% seems to be 14 lakh 20,000, that is 14 lakh 20, and out of which you have spent only 6 lakh 60. No sir, हमने 3 lakh 50 भी spend किया. No, but that is not eligible CSR because it is your own activity. So 1420 minus 660, which will come to I think 7 lakh 60. So 7 lakh 60 is the amount that you have to spend for the purpose of CSR. So you either put it into an ongoing project or you transfer it to a specified eligible fund. Okay, so you will have to transfer to an eligible fund within a period of 6 months, in absence of which you will be subjected to penalties, penal provisions. This is question number 5. You can refer this. And then is the last question, which is the recent May 2022 exam question. So over here we'll even glance through the solution so that you get the most recent version of the institute's thought process in your mind. As you can see, most of these questions have a repetitive pattern. You have this same net profit, net worth criteria, and you have a couple of things like CSR spending किया हुआ है कि नहीं किया, local area में spend किया है, same company's products have been sold. So you keep that in mind. Company has a net worth of 450 crores, below limit. It manufactures bathroom accessories. The sales of the company are affected by low demand. No innovation, same type of question. The company has provided the following information. You have the same kind of table. During the financial year 21-22, PK decided that on sale of certain selected items of bathroom accessories, 50 paisa per unit sold will be contributed to save the water foundation. Again, ये decide करने से कुछ नहीं होता. You have to spend money, which will qualify as CSR. But that is if you spend, as per Schedule 7. Consequently, by the year end, the company recognizes 1,50,000 as CSR expenditure. Okay. However, only 50% of the aforesaid amount was paid to foundation by the end of the year. No, you have to spend the entire, you have to, then you will consider only 50% amount as eligible. Whether PK has an obligation to form CSR committee as per the applicability criteria is not satisfied in the financial year 21-22. We don't have to look at 21-22. We have to look at the immediately preceding year. The net worth has always remained below the applicability threshold. That's fine, but if I look at the immediately preceding year, my net profit, though my turnover is lower, my net profit is 7.75. And as a result, over here, CSR is applicable. But when you look at CSR applicable, so we will say that CSR is very much applicable. Again, because your net profit is greater than 5 crores, you will explain the law, connect the law to the given case and conclude. However, your spending will be the average of 7.75 plus 4.25 plus 4 divided by 3. So 7.75, 4.25 and 4 divided by 3 comes to 5.33 crores. This is the average net profit into 2%. 5.33 crores into 2%. So this is around 10 lakh. 66,000, and since this is below 50 lakhs, as per institute in its own golden words, is required to spend 10.66 lakhs, net profit is so and so, the company need not form a CSR committee. It will not, because CSR committee is required to be formed if the spending is less than, not required to be formed if the spending is less than 50 lakhs. You can take the May 22 question as a base. Okay, second, whether 1,50,000 will qualify CSR expenditure under section 135 of the Companies Act. Your answer is no, not the entire amount, only to the extent it has been spent. Well, if you transfer the remaining to an unspent CSR account or you transfer to an eligible fund, then you will get CSR benefit. Otherwise, no. In any case, you will have to spend the entire amount, whatever is the 10,66,000 on eligible CSR activities. Okay, so I guess that should be it. I hope this video has been helpful. As you see the trends of CSR, I would summarize that you will get a 4 to 6 mark question. Typically on identification of whether CSR is applicable or not, the accountant will typically look at the current year, or he will say that he or she will say that the company is just in operation for 1-2 years and hence CSR is not applicable. You will throw light and you will enlighten the accountant that CSR should be applicable because of so and so reasons. Generally net profit criteria gets hit. A few other cases where CSR is just announced, not spent, company's own products have been used, etc. Or how much is the provision to be required, or how much can be carried forward and for how many years, is the type of questions that can come. Okay, I hope this has been helpful to you. I wish you all the very best. Keep studying, be positive, and wish you all the very best. Bye-bye. Take care.